Facebook, YouTube, and also on X. There we go. Who sent that? Thank you, Trish. Thank you. Oh, got some breaking news from the Supreme Court as well. What is this? Supreme Court allows Trump administration move ahead with ending protected legal status for some Venezuelans. All right, so that's good news. All right, let me check our connection on. We're live on X. Let me see. Very clear. Very clear. I like the way this sounds. Wow. You know, one thing about doing covering a trial like this is it forces you. We're going to wait. We're going to start in just a few minutes. So I could answer some questions, but let me just, I want to make sure that everything is all of our platforms. Okay, there we go. Can hear the sirens. There's no shortage of sirens. There we are on YouTube. Yep, no shortage of sirens in Dedham. Dedham is the siren capital of the world. Yes, it is. Listen to that. Is that really necessary? I'm not convinced that that is necessary. Thank you, Bendy. I'm not convinced. Listen how clear that is. All right, now let me check Facebook. We got to make sure that the Facebook connection is solid. We have to make sure that we're solid on Facebook. Good afternoon, everybody. This is, we normally are not live on TikTok at this time, but we're going to try TikTok as well. So audio is good to go. All right, says Gian. Let me, but I want to just double check. This is the big test. And there it is. Nice and clear. Okay. You know, and I'm also going to, I'll tell you, they have come out, guns blaring. We're going to be live in 5 minutes. I mean, I know we're live now, but we're going to start our program. Remember, if you want Karen Reed updates, we'll do this. I don't know about that. TikTok doesn't, we have 108,000 followers. We're doing something right on TikTok. Listen, what you're going to get is an unbiased, just totally complete, down the middle, umpire, call them as I see them, ball and strikes view of what I just witnessed in the courthouse and what is going on in the trial. So, all right, let me, can I pin that? Good. Oh, good. Okay. All right, we're going to be live in just a couple moments. Again, good afternoon, one and all. Here we go. Let me just adjust that. We also, we'll stay live for a half hour, but then at around 1:30, we're going to do politics this week with Justin Katz. And the TikTok people won't be able to hear the audio. So we'll just stay live on TikTok until that time, or right around there, 125, somewhere like that. All right. And huge day. Huge day with the Karen Reed trial. Huge day. And I don't want to have to say it twice. So we're going to just wait 3 minutes till we're live. And again, no shortage of ways that you can hear the program. Right now, for this, we are live on TikTok, but then we're also going to be live on X, on YouTube, on Facebook, and also AM 1380, 99.9 FM. Plus, you can listen online at our website, dpetro.com. So I don't see. There's all kinds of people walking around. There's all kinds of people. Yes. All right. Well, you know, no one. All right. Where's I got to get a mod for this time. I can do it for now. Uh, okay. Yes, of course. Well, Karen Reed's having a tough Monday morning. Tough morning for Karen. This is going to be a two Grey Goose night. Yeah, it's no setup. Two Grey Goose night for Karen. Boy, she's going to be pounding him tonight. And you don't have to watch. You don't have to watch if you don't want to. You don't have, no, waiting 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I got to get a mod. I need to get a mod for this hour. Can Bendy do it on, I'm hardly biased. Yeah, hardly. Nope, we're right outside of court. We're live in 1 minute. Yes, hardly. I was inside the courtroom. People are delusional. The delusion is coming to an end. Reality has hit the courtroom. So Karen's going to need both bottles of Grey Goose tonight. By the way, I'm going to be on Court TV tonight, 9 to 10, 9 to 10, but we're going to be starting in just a moment. As soon as right at 106, we're going to start. But brutal day, brutal Monday, brutal way to start the day, I should say, for the defense. Now, Robert Alisi's up next. Who knows? Maybe he could discover magic in a bottle. All right, we're going to start. Folks, good afternoon. Right now at 106 this Monday, May 19th. No, we are live outside of the Karen Reed trial in Dedham. Right now, as we speak, let me go through the platforms. We're live on TikTok for this one, only until 120, 125, 125, 130. We're also live on X. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook, and we're also live on AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. This portion of the program of the John DePietro Show is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Stop in and see them. You know, it was a beautiful weekend. This week's going to be a little sketchy, but we're leading into Memorial Day. PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, annuals, perennials, trees, and shrubs. Rhode Island's #1 garden center. They're open for the season. Hanging pots, 10-inch, 12-inch moss baskets, hanging impatiens, pansy, marigold bags, large selection of beautiful patio pots, vegetable plants and herbs, tropical mandevillas. They have it all. Stop it and see them. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, folks, also DePietro.com, which is brought to you by the Coesit Inn. 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Cap always looks good. They're waiting for you. The Coesit Inn, whether it's drinks in the lounge or lunch or dinner, they're open 7 days a week. They have a nice big bar area. Also, a perfect spot for that collation lunch. It's the Coesit Inn. So we are going to talk to Justin Katz coming up in bottom of the hour, bottom of this hour. Right now, we are in the lunch break right now on this Monday of the Karen Reed trial. And I want to break it out for you because what just happened was very, very powerful. And that is they have an expert on the stand. I'm going to make it very easy to understand for people. They have an expert on the stand, and the expert of Aperture was able to get the black box from the Lexus and paired it up with John O'Keefe's cell phone. So it's both the same time. And you see them riding along, you see them doing the 3-point turn, and then they leave it off as they're getting the Meadows. Now he's going to come back for a big encore. But here's what you need to understand is they have all the dynamics of her Lexus. They also have paired it with his John O'Keefe cell phone. So what we believe they're going to show. Now, granted, the defense is going to get a chance, but what this is going to show is where her vehicle was, where he was, which is by the flagpole, right? And then her vehicle leaves and his cell phone stays right there. Remember, Karen is the Lexus and John O'Keefe is the cell phone. So this is breakthrough. So what exactly does this mean? They're going to be able to show the Lexus, well, not show, but demonstrate the Lexus backing up they have all of the data that shows that it was a triggered reaction of her backing up. And then they're going to have his cell phone stopped moving from that location. Very devastating testimony. Now, again, this guy's an expert. Robert Alessi of the defense. I was just chatting, well, almost chatting with him, but we greet each other. Nicest guy in the world, don't get me wrong. He's going to get up on cross, which means I think he's going to be up for the rest of the afternoon. We'll probably see Hank Brennan tomorrow, which is fine, as a matter of fact, because he is probably going to introduce. Let me know when we see Bendy. I also, okay, I'm also going to, oh, good. Let me see if we have Bendy there. I'll let, he tries. Some people like him. He's got a different type of style. But I want to address this science thing because I hear people saying this, and I hear people. Bendy, just let me know when you're on, because then I want to make you a mod, get rid of some of these trolls. There's a lot of trolls up there, but I want to address the science aspect of. I'm going to come back on what we heard this morning, which was very, very powerful. And listen, if you're in the courtroom and you're watching this graph, and this guy's an expert, and they have the Lexus data and they have the phone data, and they pair them up. Okay, Bendis is here. Nope, that's not it. Bear with me, everybody. Oh, okay. I need to do that next time. Let me. I don't see him just yet, so we're gonna have to wait on that. But let me just say, Bendy, I'm watching the chat. I still don't see your name popping up. But folks, I want to address this science element of it. I'm going to give it 10 more seconds, and we're just going to have to move ahead here because for whatever reason, I do not see our friend who. Okay, he's not there. All right, let me just stay on schedule here because just I can't waste time on something like that. But I want to address, folks, this whole business of the science because I see people putting that, and it's very deceiving with one side with how they're addressing this whole business of the science, and it's impossible, and he wasn't struck by a car, and I'm going to address that. This portion of the program, though, is brought to you by Propane Plus. Call them today, 401 885 4209, or in Massachusetts, 508 252 3359. Propane Plus Heating and Cooling. You can always go online at propaneplus.com. The original, the best, it's Propane Plus. You can also log onto their website. It's propaneplus.com, and then you just type in your zip code. Folks, check them out. And for all your propane needs, it's Propane Plus. I don't see you. So you have to keep typing, uh, typing here. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right. I thought you are a moderator. Hold on, everybody. Just bear with me because this is going to be really. Wait a minute. How come I thought I had him? Bear with me, everybody, because this is going to be an important element of. Andy, I think you are a. Oh, okay. Here we go. And um. Uh. And let me do one more thing, folks. And then yeah, okay. You should be good. You should be good to go. How come I don't moderator access? And we're right there. And I'm going to give this like 2 more seconds. And I think you should be good to go. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to try it. But this is really important about the science at 114. Folks, you hear people talking about, and I see people put this, and it's a false talking point. Again, I want to be very clear. What came out today is the Lexus data paired with John O'Keefe's cell phone. This is not opinion. This is science and data, and it's going to show where her vehicle was, where his phone stopped moving. His phone was always outside by the flagpole. He never entered. It's going to have her Lexus backing up and then his cell phone not moving. That's what is entered as testimony. But I want to touch on, because I do see people put this, the science says, and I'm going to explain this because I bet other people see this. The science says that John O'Keefe, his injuries weren't consistent with a vehicle strike. And I want to break that out for you. So remember, the medical examiner, how is it that he died? And there's two different things. There's manner of death, and cause of death. So if someone, various different ways, there's a manner of death, but then there's the cause of death. With John O'Keefe died of hypothermia. His body temperature was 80 degrees, but he also had blunt force trauma to the back of his head. The blunt force trauma to the back of his head with the big gash knocked him out. Commonwealth is saying it's when he hit the ground, he was knocked unconscious, and then he essentially froze to death. But I want to touch on when people talk about the science, and I want to give you an equivalent. And it's actually really easy to understand. Let's say there's two people on a balcony, person A, person B. Person A punches person B. Person B falls off the balcony to their death. They're on top of a building or up on a balcony. This would be the equivalent of person A, right? The person that punched person B. Person A punches him. Person B falls to the death. Person A saying, good news. They determined the punch, when I punched him, it didn't cause his death. Well, that's true. But when you punched him, you put him in motion and then he fell to his death. So this business, this people saying the science, his injuries were not from a vehicle. They're misrepresenting what happened. If you had two people on a balcony fighting and one person punches the other, would the other person say, good news? The medical examiner, they've determined that my fist didn't cause his death. Well, technically that's true, but you propelled him in motion off of the balcony. I want to give another example. And tragically, this happens all the time. There's words exchanged inside of a bar, and there's a fight outside. And during the fight, one person punches the other, right? Tragically, this happens all over the world. The person falls back, bangs their head on a curb, or, in a parking lot, they have, the yellow, whatever you call them, barriers of where you park. But the person bangs their head on the curb into a coma, and they died from that. There was a guy in Providence, in the right behind Club Coliseum in a parking lot, two guys fighting. One punches the other, he falls back, hits his head on that, and then dies. This would be the equivalent of the guy that threw the punch saying, hey, good news. They determined that I couldn't have killed him when I punched him. Technically, that's true. But we know that the punch put him in motion to go backwards. So when you hear that, see, that's false. When you hear the Karen Reed supporters try to say, oh, good news, they determined with science that he didn't die from the injuries of being struck. Let's go back to the balcony. You wouldn't even have to punch someone. You could push someone off a balcony. And then imagine the person saying, hey, good news. It turns out the push didn't kill them. Technically, that's true. But then it was the falling that caused the death. See, do you see? This is where these things just get misrepresented. We also, something that we want to watch is a lot of people are speculating online that Alan Jackson, and I remember when this happened in opening arguments, that Alan Jackson, in opening arguments, said that Karen Reed got out of the vehicle. He said that in opening arguments, that they didn't, neither one of them was sure of the address, as if they're in a foreign land. My God, they're not in the Amazon and they've never seen it before. I mean, it's just another house in Canton. I could see where it was tucked. They weren't exactly sure where it was, but they're not trying to find the North Pole here or anything. They're not in the rainforest trying to find a trap door. So, but what that leads us to believe is when Karen Reed said, When I saw him, he didn't look mortally wounded. That means she got out of her Lexus SUV, saw him lying there, and what did she do? She took off. That is where the murder charge comes in. For all the people that have said it was an accident, she didn't mean to do this. But we're waiting to see with the data, with the Lexus. Alan Jackson threw it out that she got out of the vehicle. Oh, they both got out, he said. They both got out of the vehicle. So that would lead credence to then playing the clip of Karen saying, he didn't look mortally wounded to me, right? She thought maybe I just clipped him and he fell backwards and possibly didn't realize how severely he had banged the back of his head. Folks, this portion of the program, but I want to tell you what's so important about the witness we just had. And again, the defense, Robert Alisi, he's going to have a chance to cross examine him. This portion of the program is brought by Roofco Rhode Island. If you're thinking of getting a new roof, call them at 401 868 7149. 401 868 7149. Free estimate, Roof Co. Rhode Island. Give them a call today. They'll inspect your roof for wind damage, free estimate, or a leaky roof, missing lifted or curled shingles, granules in the gutter, damaged chimney flashing. Roof Co. Rhode Island. Give them a call. Free estimate, 401 868 7149, 401 868 7149 for Roof Co. Rhode Island. Now, also, let's see, who was it that Ellen asked me about? What's the number? How does she get her daughter involved with Kids Club on the Pike Summer Camp? Ellen, contact them, Kids Club on the Pike. Call them 401 443 5336. Well, and they're right off of 295, right on the Cranston Johnston line. It's Kids Club on the Pike. Now, it is perfect for a birthday party venue, before and after school care, preschool, but they have a great summer camp. Kids Club on the Pike. Look for them on Facebook. They have very good social media. But reserve your spot for your child or grandchild, because once the spots are filled, you're out of luck. 401 443 5336. So, again, coming up, we are going to talk to Justin Katz, managing editor at anchorrising.com, our segment Politics this week. But right now, again, on this Monday, Hank Brennan, the prosecution, has started off the week with a bang. And that is great testimony, very powerful witness, this guy from Aperture. And he's an expert. And he has taken the data from her Lexus SUV. He has paired it with John O'Keefe's cell phone. And you see the diagram of the two of them. I mean, it's really, folks, the technology is tremendous. But I want you to understand what they have done is they have really, as Hank Brennan, the special prosecutor, had promised, this is a science and data case. This is a science and data case that you can't argue with. There's the technology, black box taken out of the Lexus. There is the data from his phone paired together. It shows when she did a 3-point turn. They're going to demonstrate when she floored it and backed up. It's paired with when his phone started moving, getting out of her Lexus SUV, and then when it stopped moving. So let me just be clear. I recognize some people, what drew you into the case was the idea of the conspiracy. Some people, and they're fascinated by it, and they were hooked by it. You know, the idea that all these people, and they lured this guy into the house and blah, blah, blah. But I'm telling you right now in this trial, on this Monday, they don't have him in the house. The defense does not have him in the house. There's no witness that has him in the house, but more importantly, the technology that they're demonstrating. If you don't like technology, be mad at the technology. If you don't like the data from the Lexus, then you can be angry with that. If you don't like if you're angry that they pulled the data from his Apple phone, then you can be angry at that. But I would think if you want to be rational, don't you want to don't you want to be able to receive and get an accurate depiction of what happened that night? I mean, all we've been hearing, and it's true, is that there was no eyewitness to what happened. And that is true. But the fact of the matter is the data, and I mean, I think it's really interesting. The data that's in your car, you don't even realize it, especially the newer vehicle that you have. The data that is in your phone, you don't even realize that as you're walking along and your phone is bouncing off different cell towers, there's GPS, let alone Waze. So it tells you where you are. This is a data science case, but the data and science is going to have him outside that flagpole. And I want to be very clear. So far, for those, unless, listen, if there are people that just want to continue to scream, it's corrupt, corrupt, everybody's corrupt, he was killed in the house and so forth, then, have at it. Go right ahead. But I'm telling you, there's nothing of evidence, there's nothing of testimony that has him inside the house. All of the speculation, all of the theory, all of the conspiracy idea. Let me just say this, none of that matters if you can't get him inside the house. And they can. I would think, and what I don't understand is people, I believe, if you're a rational adult, you should, to me, you want to come away from this with a clearer understanding of exactly what happened, right? I would think, but some people don't. There are a lot of people, they don't want the truth. They want to just keep digging deeper. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by ServPro of Providence. Call them today when disaster strikes. Call ServPro 401 941 5500. Water damage, fire, mold. ServPro of Providence 401 941 5500. Fire damage, water damage, mold. They're fast, they're thorough, professional. 401 941 5500. They're another one. I share their Facebook page. Now, folks, again, good afternoon. It's Monday. It's May 19th. We are outside of the Karen Reed trial. Um, we are on lunch break right now and be going back. I also just want to touch on, some of the people that they're so vested and they get so angry and they're nasty on social media. Let me just also remind you, you don't know her. You don't know her. Like you can't dwell on it. But these people, you're a clone. You're like, you don't know her. She doesn't know who you are. You just started following the case and you got involved with the conspiracy. You don't know her. You don't know anything about her. You didn't know John O'Keefe, most of you. There's only a handful of people that did. Listen, his family has a right. People were depending on him. These people that say, what's the big deal with the case? Well, it's a big deal to his family. It was certainly a big deal to his niece and nephew. The niece testified. The nephew was in the courtroom. This is, when you look at, for those that say, like, what's the big deal? Well, domestic violence is a problem. And in this particular situation, it certainly seems the evidence is lining up that there was domestic violence here, but it was her using her Lexus SUV as a weapon. But don't say it doesn't matter. Listen, it does matter if we have a justice system where if you look a certain way, if you're attractive, and if you're of means and you hire the right attorney, that then you can escape justice. And I don't think that's what people want. So it does matter. And it certainly matters to his family and friends. And especially when you see, as I did, his niece who was in court, who had already lost her mother and father, who passed away, which was John's sister. He became the legal guardian to the niece and nephew. And they were supposed to be going to an after party, and he was getting directions to an after party. And then suddenly he's found dead on the lawn. So, but don't dismiss it as though it doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. I can tell you it matters to the niece and the nephew and the family, and they deserve the right to know what happened. And Karen Reed came up with this elaborate plan and idea and conspiracy I like the people that say she's very involved with her defense. Well, she should be. She invented it. She came up and made up the whole thing after looking through the grand jury testimony. But don't say that doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. I'm telling you, you don't want a system where if there's someone attractive or a means that they literally can get away with murder, like O.J. Simpson did. Folks, this portion of the program brought to you by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call Corey today, 401 283 9815. They can resurface a pickleball court, sport court, tennis court, epoxy garages and patios, decorative concrete flooring. They make your pavement look like new. It's Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Great social media presence. 401 283 9815. Call Corey, 401 283 9815. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Again, they can epoxy garages and patios, decorative concrete flooring, sport court resurfacing, pickleball, tennis, basketball, make your pavement look like new. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. All right, everybody on TikTok, you're not going to be able to hear the next segment, but you're welcome to join us on our other platforms, which would be Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or X. So, but with that, everybody else that is on Facebook and X and YouTube and the radio, let's bring him on. He is the managing editor of anchorrising.com every week, roughly around this time, and it's Justin Katz. Good afternoon, Justin.
Good afternoon, John.
Hey, Justin. Justin, let's start off, and we have a number of things we want to talk about, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, obviously, very sad news about President Biden. I find the whole thing a little suspicious, but I want to talk a little bit, not only about President Biden, but let's face it, those that were paying attention, he had a brutal end of week. The Sunday shows were dominated by when you heard the audio recording. You have the book coming out by Jake Tapper, that audio recording. He couldn't even remember when he had been stopped being vice president. He couldn't remember certain dates. And then all of a sudden, I mean, it is, as everything is just gushing, suddenly comes out with the announcement that he has prostate cancer. And then, as you can imagine, all the locals and the Democrat politicians react to that. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think, it's sad to hear. He's old. But frankly, I fall with those who find the timing pretty convenient when there's about to be this giant controversy. And I think that's Joe Powers from the Rhode Island GOP talked about it not being time for cynicism. But I've seen nothing from the Democrats or the Biden family in particular to dissuade me from the maximum amount of cynicism. At a minimum, the entire Democrat Party and mainstream media strove and lied, visibly lied, to cover up Joe Biden's mental incapacity. I see no reason to think they're not trying to use his illness at this point to try to pivot away from that fact. And I think that we can't allow that to happen. He perpetrated, in my mind, perhaps the greatest presidential scandal in the history of our country. I'm sorry to hear he has prostate cancer, but we can't let that slide. It's not just his life on the line, it's our nation's life on the line. And I think as much as Democrats want to let that slide by, I think that's important to remember.
You know what else, Justin? And I'm not sure. I think I kind of understand what Chairman Joe Powers was trying to do. I don't know if he needed to say anything, because what I believe is we were right on the verge of, let's face it, just whether it's Rhode Island or Massachusetts, whether it's Senator Elizabeth Warren or whether it's Senator Markey or whether it's Senator Reid or White House. I mean, to me, they need to answer some questions, as they were covering up and kept saying that he's fine, let alone, I think one of the worst offenders, and this is going to hurt her political ambition for 28, is former Governor Raimondo, who was still insisting, oh, the guy's sharp as a tack and he outruns us and everything. What we are learning is, you're exactly right. This was a massive cover-up. And on top of that, they were trying to push him forward for 4 more years. Now, prostate cancer, those of people that know about it, it doesn't like hit like a freight train. A lot of men, most men end up getting it. We don't know when he had it. And I'm very skeptical of someone who would essentially have access to some of the finest physicians in the world as when he was president and former president, how they would have missed something like that. So I'm very skeptical with the announcement. There are men that have it for years, and they end up dying, and they don't die from that. They just die from old age.
Well, I mean, precisely, and I think the a lot of people I don't think want to face up to what the implications are if this is deceptive. I mean, there's some indication he knew about it, certainly in 2022, the way he spoke, but he misspoke so often at that point, it's easy to dismiss. I've seen some people suggesting that he didn't take a particular prostate exam that others, I think this was actually Morning Joe on MSN, a very Democrat-friendly outlet, had a doctor on saying Joe Biden didn't take or release data from prostate exams that every president has done in the past 30 years.
Oh,
That looks suspicious. And what that starts to set up is that the Democrats were literally trying to push this guy who could not perform the job into another term, possibly hoping that he was old and he had a cancer, that he would die in office and hand the office to Kamala Harris. And there you go. They've got their minority woman president. That's the level of cynicism I think is justified after everything we've seen, I think, from Obama on, and the way the news media pivots. And I think, I mean, with reference to Joe Powers and the RIGOP, I agree with you wholeheartedly. He didn't have to say anything. You get the impression that the GOP in Rhode Island thinks their job is to sort of proclaim the Republican position on every little controversy, but it's not their job. And notice, like, mainstream media reporters like Ed Fitzpatrick of the Boston Globe, they retweeted Joe Powers. Did Fitzpatrick retweet him disagreeing with the Palestinian flag on City Hall? I didn't see it. I mean, they promote that to make it, when he says something they like, they say, here, look, this ineffectual GOP guy, he's the one you should follow. It's all goes into the whole machinery to promote Democrats and always twist everything to keep them in office. And we can't let that happen with Joe Biden. It was just too extreme of an affront to the American people, in my opinion.
Yeah, I find it very hard to believe, and I just don't think Joe Powers needed to say anything. Speaking of the flag, I want to get your thoughts, Justin. I think it is inexcusable. I actually can't believe that Providence City Hall felt, I can't imagine the mindset of the city council that they made this decision to fly the Palestinian flag over Providence. It was a win. You know, let's keep in mind who it is that puts Hamas in power. It is the Palestinian people. I can't even imagine being someone who is Jewish who either lives in Providence, has a business in Providence. To me, that just sends a warning sign of where the direction the city is going. It was done by intent. It just continues to stoke anti-Semitism. What are your thoughts on the decision to fly the Palestinian flag over Providence City Hall?
Well, I think to me the biggest signal comes from the fact that they had no reason whatsoever to do it. Doing that is not going to make any difference, but it sends a signal. Providence is this kind of city. Even if it was a handful of city councilors, even if it was only a couple dozen people attending their flag raising ceremony, whatever they want to call it, that sends a very strong signal, like the one you're saying, that this is the kind of people you're going to get in Providence. So if you're thinking about visiting here, if you're thinking about opening a business in the area, think really carefully. And that's part of the issue. And what else struck me was Mayor Smiley was on the other side of the issue, saying he just came back from Israel and this is a front and shouldn't be done. And he linked it to increasing anti-Semitism. And that struck me kind of oddly, because every time we see stories of anti-Semitism, I think a few years ago we never got a resolution to. There was graffiti on a Jewish school in Providence. It's always paired with Proud Boys, white supremacists, neo-Nazis. Well, what if it's actually should be paired for these radical Islamists who are currently promoting themselves under the Palestinian flag? What if that's the origin of this anti-Semitism? This is an area where we as a society really need to be a lot more honest and a lot more conscious of where the real affronts and anti-Semitism are coming from.
There's essentially people that want Providence to mimic Seattle and Portland. I mean, that's the way I envision it. And anyone that thinks that those cities are operating effectively, they're seen as lawless zones of progressives. By the way, we do have some breaking news. The jury has found Aaron Thomas, the North Kingstown basketball coach, not guilty of second-degree child molestation and not guilty second-degree sexual assault in the naked fat test trial. They find him guilty of the lesser included misdemeanor battery charges. So there will be civil, but that is just breaking. I want to give credit to Gabrielle Carciola, Aaron Thomas, not guilty in that high-profile trial. Justin, any reaction to that?
Well, I haven't followed it so closely to know where
Okay.
technically the law should have fallen, but
All right.
I think what we ought to see is definitely some legislation to start to say, why do we have unqualified school personnel touching naked boys? That's a big
Yep.
question mark in my mind.
Yes. Now, another story that certainly got a lot of play is Governor McKee pushing through these raises for some of his top cabinet. Now, the House was trying to stop it. Obviously, with the Senate, the new Senate leaders, they step in and they pass it. What do you think about that, Justin?
Well, I think Lawson just didn't even give him an opportunity to vote. She just said, you know what, we're not going to consider this. And there you go. She single-handedly paid back some of the governor's big favors to labor unions. I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's not a lot of money, but we also have to be conscious. People aren't clamoring for these jobs. We're not getting people who are just outlandishly good at their jobs. I think it could be a good symbolic move to withdraw that. But what I just, as with everything with Lawson, I haven't seen a whole lot of people in the mainstream saying, well, why wouldn't you let your people go on the record on this? Why not? People care about it. It's a small amount of money, but the voters care. Let us see who votes how. That'd be interesting information for voters. And she said, no, I'm not going to do it that way. And I think that to me is almost a bigger affront than the raises themselves.
And to me, one of the problems with Val Lawson, folks, who's the new Senate president, new Senate leadership, her and Frank Chacon, is as the head of the teachers union, it's very conceivable to me there is some deal in the works. And Governor McKee said, if you do this, you're not just cutting a deal with the Senate president, you're cutting the deal with the leader of one of the teachers unions. So to me, every transaction they make could be open to some kind of a campaign promise that we're going to find out down the line. Now, the two of them appeared on Newsmakers on Channel 12 over the weekend. Justin, any thoughts you had on the appearance? I just want to go first on this. I laugh when the two of them, especially Lawson, talk about, what her constituents want or what's right for the people of the state. We both know that's not who her constituent is. Her constituent is first the teachers union, second it's organized labor. She's up there for that reason. Her constituents are not the taxpayers, and they're certainly not the people of East Providence. They are for organized labor, the people that put her and pay her salary.
Well, I think absolutely, and the biggest thing that jumped out at me is I used to have a lot of respect for Ted Nesi as a journalist, and I don't know what happened to him. I was just watching those two, Lawson and Chacon, go through the questions and almost like prepared talking points. They could have had them written down on note cards in front of them. If they face an actual journalist with actual interest in pulling out information from them, they'd be done. They'd fall apart. I mean, Nesi let Lawson on this issue of her being the head of the NEA, which is arguably one of the top three biggest lobbyists and special interests in the state. He let her get away with saying, well, it's part-time legislature. Everybody there has a conflict. What? That's crazy. She, as you say, she's in a position to be making backroom deals for her labor union, for the progressives, all on behalf of the governor, able to pull. And what killed me was, as we just discussed, this thing with the raises, she just made that go away by saying we're not going to consider this. But then Nesi lets her get away with saying repeatedly, "Oh, I believe in process. Don't worry, everybody's going to have their say. We'll have the committees and we'll have the votes." You just proved you're lying, and there's no follow up. Just kid gloves from start to finish, and that's a very ominous sign, I think, for the people.
Yeah, and it's a dangerous time. Are we led to believe the charter schools are going to be treated fairly there? Are we led to believe that anything affiliated with schools are going to be treated fairly? Justin, I also just come away from that is I try to envision, I'm a business owner and I'm thinking of relocating and trying to open a business or expand a business. If I'm meeting with those two people, I come back to my company or representatives or board and say, hey, it's a no-go. The search is still on. Like, to me, you're not sitting down with those people. You're not going to talk business with those people. I'll give you the final word, but they have an absolute agenda and it has nothing to do with anything that's good for the taxpayers or anything that's that's good as far as growing business.
Yeah, the answer that struck me along those lines was Frank Chacon when Ted Nesi pushed him, and he pushed him much harder on this issue than any other for his votes that were somewhat socially conservative in the past. And he said, "Oh well, I was at the time I was a senator. Like, by the way, you're still a senator representing constituents, Senator Chacon. But I was representing there were 5 churches. There were a lot of Hispanics who were against gay marriage in my
Right.
community. Blah 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 blah. So I didn't go with how I really felt. But now you're free to let your freak flag fly and kill the state because you're a left-wing lunatic like the rest of them. That's a dangerous answer in my view. And I think you're exactly right. If I'm a company, I think we're already seeing evidence in the economy there. You know what? I'm not even going to bother with this state. We're going to decouple. As the United States generally, the economy improves. I think Rhode Island's going to lag and maybe even go into recession all by its lonesome. But that's where we're headed because we've got these people who just don't care. The state has been completely given over to special interests.
Yeah. Folks, it's time for Katz's Corner, and this is a story that Justin Katz has found. And what do you have for us this week, Justin Katz?
Well, a lot of the students are graduating from college this year, and I just wanted to remind them all, if you happen to have dark skin and you're a teacher, you can go to Providence, and the Rhode Island Foundation has a nice racist grant just for you to help pay off your student loans, $25,000. Luckily, William Jacobson from Legal Insurrection Foundation is suing in federal court for that little bit of discrimination, but it's something I don't think a lot of people have heard about because the news media isn't talking about it very much.
I have not, and he's brilliant at the Legal Insurrection. Folks, he is Justin Katz, managing editor, anchorrising.com. Justin, excellent job as always, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, John. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, folks, there it is. Politics This Week with Justin Katz, managing editor of anchorrising.com, right here on the John DePetro Show. Now, it is 1:46, and the news is starting to break on the North Kingstown coach. I've said that I did think that was a tough case simply because it was certainly odd. There was no purpose to it, but they never found anyone that came in and said this guy did A, B, and C to me, or I did A, B, and C to him. So it's embarrassing. The civil suits are one thing, but he has been found not guilty on the other stuff. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Arch Design Builders. They specialize in residential design. I'm going to talk about Karen Reed in just a moment. Folks, 401-207-4124. 401-207-4124. Arch Design Builders. Whether it's a new kitchen or a new bathroom or a new basement or a new deck or a special project, Arch Design Builders. Call my friends Ed and Roxanne, and they're another one. I share their Facebook page. They have tremendous social media. Call them and set up that meeting with Roxanne and Ed at Arch Design Builders. 401-218-9707. Any project, this is who you're going to want to deal with. They've had people that bring them on for a small project. 3 years later, they're still doing more work for them. 401-218-9707. You know why? Locally owned and operated, family run. Ed and Roxanne are just tremendous. They specialize in kitchen, bath, custom remodels, but you're talking about emotional investment in the success of the project, high-end custom build and customer service. The Arch difference. Arch Design Builders. Call them today, 401-207-4124. So I will be going back into court for the Karen, yeah, that's right, for the Karen Reed second half. Hank Brennan announced he had finished his questions. Also coming up to 9, we're live on Court TV from 9 to 10. But I want to touch on what we saw this morning. And what you saw this morning is Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan. Hank Brennan talked about the fact that I'm also seeing Tim White is posting the jury finds Thomas guilty of 2 counts of misdemeanor battery. That's not a felony. So the guy is broken. Let's see. All right. Alisi cross-examining Shannon Burgess about confirmation bias, whether he had it in his investigation. Okay. So, but here is what is really big. Burgess. Now, this was the witness on the stand. 12:32:04, 12:32:12. The tech stream event. Car going in reverse ends in this time frame. Folks, I want to want to repeat this. The tech stream event of the car, the Lexus SUV going in reverse, 12:32:04, 12:32:12. It's less than 10 seconds. Ian Whiffen had said John O'Keefe's phone locks for the last time at 12:32:09. Whiffen, 12:32:16. No movement from the phone ever again. That is, and I want to credit Christina Rex of WBZ. Folks, again, in talking about the Karen Reed case, and I see some of her supporters. This is about science and data. This is a case of science and data. The science and data can't lie. Science and data can't lie. They have his phone paired with her Lexus, his phone and her Lexus. So Robert Alisi is going to cross-examine. Listen, he's a good guy. I mean, I get it. Um, he has a different approach than some of the other attorneys in the case, no doubt. But let's give him a chance. I also want to remind people to be fair, because remember, we are providing unbiased, fair coverage of the trial. But the triggering event and the variation of what they laid out, um, it's incredible technology that you can't cross-examine. I mean, Robert Alisi is going to try, but I just don't know how you try to cross-examine. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. I'll say this, and I know she has a lot of fans. They will get a chance to put on their defense. But as of right now, with the pairing of his phone with the Lexus data, it's a pretty compelling argument that the Commonwealth argues that she backed up into him, and as they say, hit him and left him. And I would say I just don't see how you can come away with anything other than that. So I'm just reading some of the other notes from um, from this morning, but I don't know how you come away from this. Now they're obviously going to try. Let me just see. Jonathan Hall. He's trying to refute a claim. He's Channel 7. He's trying to refute a claim by defense experts. O'Keefe locked his phone 30 seconds after the Lexus backed up. Therefore, Reed could not have struck him with the car, as the state claims. And that's what a lot of her defenders say. The timing is important because the iPhone data shows O'Keefe's phone was locked at 12:32:09, and the Lexus clock is 21 seconds slow. Burgess calculated there's a variance between the Lexus computers and O'Keefe's phone. He also, I thought, did it pretty effectively. Your microwave, the clock on your microwave doesn't necessarily line up with your cell phone. He said it's between 21 and 29 seconds. He testifies the second tech event is the acceleration in reverse. Happens at 12:32:04 to 12:32:12 on January 29th, depending on that variance. Well, folks, that is when it happened. And it also explains that she went in reverse for exactly 8 seconds. So is the jury going to understand all of this? I don't know. But what they are doing is making a very effective argument that his phone is paired with her Lexus SUV. I'm just telling you, I found it to be really interesting testimony this morning, locking it in. I think they make it very easy to understand. And I think the pairing of this, I believe that when they get some other, quote, experts on the stand, they're going to be able to demonstrate that that information was wrong. And that is really important because so many of the Karen Reed supporters have banked on these guys from ARCA and the whole business of how did he lock his phone 20 seconds after she supposedly hit him? How did that happen? That is being washed away. I also understand not everyone's going to absorb that, not everyone's going to accept that. A lot of people are just, they do it what they always do, which is they just pretend they don't see it. But I'm telling you, that seems very compelling data when you have his phone paired up with the SUV. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by J. Perry Paving. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service, and Father's Day's coming. You know what your dad would love? He'd love to get the driveway paved. J. Perry Paving. Free estimate, any project, 401 732 1730. 401 732 1730. Letter J. J. Perry Paving. No one has a better package for veterans than J. Perry Paving. Call them today, 401 732 1730. 401 732 1730. Letter J. J. Perry Paving. Free estimate, any project. So get your driveway paved or get your parking lot paved. Call them for a free quote. Call them for a free estimate. 401 732 1730. Look for them on Facebook. They're also on Instagram. It's letter J. J. Perry Paving. Well, folks, good afternoon. Again, I will be heading back inside for the afternoon session. Couple of reminders: JD Lawn Care and Tree Service. Call them today at 401 441 0154. JD Lawn Care and Tree Service. And also, don't forget your best lawn ever, guaranteed. This could be the year. I'll tell you, I swear by them. Lawn Doctor. Go online. They have a great website and your best lawn ever guaranteed. Just log on at lawndoctor.com. Wherever you're listening or watching, you just type in your zip code, get a quick, easy quote. Lawn Doctor, 401 392 1025. But Lawn Doctor Rhode Island, your lawn care company, log on and you just type in your zip code and they will handle it. So, again, I want to recap. So, this is day 18 of the Karen Reed trial. So, what I understand, and again, actually repeating the breaking news, Aaron Thomas has been found not guilty of the most important charges, which were felonies of molestation. Now, I can understand ex Rhode Island coach guilty of misdemeanor battery in the naked fat test trial, not guilty of child molestation and sexual assault. Well, what's interesting about that is, we had talked about that, and when we had, and we'll have our legal analyst on this week, Stephanie Murphy. One of the things I said to her was I wasn't convinced they had him because as much as there doesn't seem that there was any benefit to it, and he was crying and apologizing on the stand, but as you look at it, he would get in a closet with these young guys. He would say shy or not shy, and then make them, undress. And he would also be touching their most private areas. But there wasn't one witness in that court in North Kingstown that said he touched them in the wrong way. There wasn't one witness that said that he touched them or he made them touch him or anything like that. So in the end, if you're the jury, now again, I if you're the jury and you're going by the law, you have to follow the law. And technically, as much as it is certainly inappropriate, certainly creepy, and doesn't seem to provide any benefit, but bottom line, under the way law is written in the state, he technically didn't break the law, other than the misdemeanor stuff. So we will talk about that this week with our legal expert attorney, Stephanie Murphy. So folks, at 1:59, I will be on Court TV tonight from 9 to 10. I think we're going to ride later. I'm not sure yet. That'll be a game time decision for Road Patrol Live. But coming up, you're going to hear the 2 o'clock news. I'm going to head back in to the courtroom for the afternoon session of the Karen Reed trial. And again, repeating the big news, Aaron Thomas found not guilty of the 2 felony counts. And in the Karen Reed trial, very strong testimony. They appeared the Lexus up with John O'Keefe's cell phone, and they have this triggering event right at the time that his phone stopped working. All right, Gian, great job. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you to Justin Katz. Stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. I'm heading back into court.